Have you ever wondered why government exists? Well, they create rules. The hard part is figuring out what rules are necessary or desirable, and each form of government has its own way of answering that question. Governments originated with the need to protect people from conflicts and provide law and order to their citizens. Governments first evolved as people discovered that protection was easier if they stayed together and decided someone in the group should have more power than the others.
Who rules? Someone's got to be in charge. If you compared all the governments in the world, you would find one thing in common. Someone is in charge. The question is, who? There are many different forms of governments. Some have one leader who has all the control, others give power to the people. Here are some forms of government that exist or have existed in the world.
Me, myself, and I. When one or a few people hold all the power. Autocracy, monarchy, and dictatorship. Well, first, there's an autocracy, which is a government in which one person has all the power. There are two main types of autocracies, monarchy and dictatorship. In a monarchy, the king and queen have absolute power and are known as the monarchs. Monarchs usually come to power through their family line. The current king or queen's oldest child becomes the next king or queen. In some monarchs, especially those in historical times, the monarchs held all the power and had final say over the government. This happens in Saudi Arabia. In modern times, monarchs usually share the power with other parts of government. They are also subject to the country's constitution. For example, Norway is a constitutional monarchy. King Harald V is the head of state with his wife Sonja, and they have mostly a ceremonial role. The actual government is a democracy. In a dictatorship, the dictator has ultimate control over the citizens' lives. If there's a constitution, the dictator has control over that too. So it doesn't mean that much. Although the other parts of government may exist, such as courts and a lawmaking body, these branches always do what the dictator wants them to do. They do not represent the citizens. There are 50 dictatorships in the world today, including Iraq, Cuba, and Ethiopia.
Power to the people. In a democracy, citizens hold the political power. There are two fundamental types of democracies. The first is a representative democracy, where citizens elect leaders to represent their rights and interests in government. They elect leaders, or representatives, to do the day-to-day work of governing the country. They consider the issues, work to find solutions, pass laws, and do all the other things necessary to keep a country going. Citizens hold the ultimate power, though, because if they don't like what their representatives are doing, they can vote in new ones. Think the United States. Then there is a direct democracy, where there are no representatives. Citizens are directly involved in the day-to-day work of governing the country. Citizens might be required to participate in lawmaking or act as judges. An example of this is Switzerland. Most modern countries are too large for a direct democracy to work.
What would be your vision of a perfect world? Socialism assumes everyone is willing to share their resources and wealth with the others. Everyone has what he or she needs and won't go without. Sounds perfect, right? Well, just as with any other societal model, socialism has its pros and cons. Socialism is a system based on cooperation, where everyone works together to provide equally for everyone else. But socialism differs according to the country. In one country, the people may own properties and resources collectively. The people also make all of the decisions, which are regulated by the government to ensure equality, like China. Another country may have a form of democratic socialism, in which private property and private business are allowed. Citizens are taxed at a very high rate, and the money is used to provide services like healthcare, dental care, and education. France is an example of a democratic socialist country.
We, ourselves, and us. In an oligarchy, a small group of people has all the power. Oligarchy is a Greek word that means rule by a few. Sometimes this means that only a certain group has political rights, such as members of one political party, social class, or race. For example, in some societies, only noble families who own land could participate in politics. An oligarchy can also mean that a few people control the country. For example, a junta is a small group of people, usually military officers, who rule a country after taking it over by force. A junta often operates much like a dictatorship, except that several people share power.
Religious rule. A theocracy is a government that recognizes God or a divine being as the ultimate authority. Theo is a Greek word meaning God. In a theocracy, religious law is used to settle disputes and rule the people. A theocracy can come in the form of democracy, dictatorship, monarchy, or just about any other type of government. For example, the Republic of Iran recognizes Islamic law, but Iran's citizens vote to elect their leaders. Modern theocracies are usually found in countries where the population is strongly religious.
Rule by none. In an anarchy, nobody is in control. Or everyone is, depending on how you look at it. Sometimes the word anarchy is used to refer to an out-of-control mob. When it comes to government, anarchy would be one way to describe the human state of existence before any governments developed. It would be similar to the way that animals live in the wild, with everyone looking out for themselves. Today, people who call themselves anarchists usually believe that people should be allowed to freely associate together without being subject to any nation or government. There are no countries that have anarchy as their form of government.
Though the rules and responsibilities vary greatly through time and place, governments must create them. Governments provide the parameters for everyday behavior for citizens, protect them from outside interference, and often provide their well-being and happiness. Tune in next week for Economics.